KPBS On Demand is supported by Fleet Science Center's newest exhibit, Survival of the Slowest. See firsthand how nature's smallest, slowest, and weakest creatures can not only survive, but thrive in the wild. Open May 24th through September 1st. Learn more at fleetscience.org.
Good morning, I'm Debbie Cruz. It's Thursday, May 10th. Students at UC San Diego rallied to support international classmates targeted for deportation. More on that next. But first, the headlines. The District 1 County Supervisor's race appears to be headed for a July runoff. As of Tuesday, the Republican mayor of Chula Vista, John McCann, leads all candidates with about 44% of the vote. He's followed by Democrat Paloma Aguirre, the mayor of Imperial Beach. If no candidate finishes with 50% of the vote, the top two go on to July's special general election. With the county board split with 2 Republicans and 2 Democrats, the race will determine which party controls the board, even if the positions are nonpartisan. After public backlash, the city of San Diego is decreasing its proposed trash pickup fee at least a little. According to the Union Tribune, the suggested full-service monthly rate has dropped by just over $5, from $53 to $47.59 per month. There are also lower fees for using smaller bins. Since 1919, trash pickup for single-family homes in the city came without any fees. The city says ending that will save the city between $80 and $90 million a year. The city council is set to debate the proposal Monday. A former Qualcomm executive was convicted this week in an elaborate fraud scheme. The U.S. Attorney's Office's Kareem Arabi developed a valuable microchip technology while he was vice president of Qualcomm's R&D department. He then created a company to conceal his involvement and sold it back to his employer for $180 million. 2 co-conspirators previously pleaded guilty to money laundering and are awaiting sentencing. A federal jury convicted Arabi of wire fraud conspiracy, and conspiracy to launder money. He faces 20 years in prison and millions of dollars in fines. From KPBS, you're listening to San Diego News Now. Stay with me for more of the local news you need.
KPBS On Demand is supported by the National Conflict Resolution Center. Geopolitics, a divisive election year, and strained budgets are all topics that can create tension in the workplace. NCRC can help workplace leaders navigate polarizing issues with the Culture, Communication, and Conflict Certificate. More at ncrconline.com.
There was a rally at UC San Diego yesterday protesting a federal move to revoke some student visas, including 5 on their campus. Reporter Jacob Ayer says the protesters called on federal judges to take action.
What do we want? Justice! In front of the Geisel Library, dozens of UC San Diego activists made their voices heard, loud and clear. They were protesting and marching against student visa revocations that recently happened on their campus and across the U.S. San Diego native and UC San Diego 4th-year student Daniel Soria helped to organize the event.
To the federal immigration judges here in San Diego and no-time basic detention facilities, do your duty. Do not rubber stamp these deportations. Scrutinize every case.
UCSD says 5 students had their visas revoked last week, and a 6th was detained at the border and then deported. No reason has been given for these actions. Jacob Ayer, KPBS News.
Tijuana's migrant shelters are feeling the impacts of President Donald Trump's cuts to international aid. Operators told reporter Gustavo Solis they're scrambling to find other funding. Otherwise, they may have to cut services or shut down.
Late last year, Father Pat Murphy had a solid budget for his Casa del Migrante shelter in Tijuana. Or at least he thought he did. Weeks before President Donald Trump's inauguration, he had lined up funding for his migrant shelter through organizations aligned with USAID.
We just signed a contract with them the last day of December. For aid for the entire year, it would have been close to $100,000.
But then on his first day in office, Trump made sweeping cuts to USAID.
40% of our budget was lost with that.
Now, Father Pat is scrambling to cover the gap, traveling as far as Kansas and Canada to visit potential donors. He's hopeful that someone will step up.
And people are generous. Even those who don't have much know that there are others who have less. So they're usually willing and able to help.
Still, the clock is ticking.
Doing the math, about 3 months. We'll have to, if we don't hit some good foundations, by June we're going to have to make some decisions. 40%, what does that mean? You cut your staff 40%? Cut your services 40%?
He also doesn't expect help from the Mexican government. In 2018, former Mexico President Andrés Manuel López Obrador eliminated funding for all nonprofits, including migrant shelters. That loss of Mexican funding made shelters even more reliant on foreign aid. So says José María García Lara. He runs his own migrant shelter and represents an alliance of multiple shelters in Tijuana.
Siempre han estado en riesgo, ¿no? Porque la realidad es que...
Garcia says that shelters are always in a state of financial risk. Cuts to USAID only make an already volatile situation much more uncertain. He's worried that some of the shelters may have to close permanently.
Los albergues, claro que están en riesgo, muchos de ellos. Quizás algunos poco a poco se van a ir.
Garcia's shelter, Movimiento Juventud, struggled to keep the lights on last year. An electrical company shut off their power after the shelter failed to pay their utility bill.
Ya casi nos estábamos atrasando para que otra vez nos volvieran a cortar la luz, pero afortunadamente lo logramos.
He says the same thing almost happened again this year, but a donor stepped up to prevent another shutoff. Shelters throughout the city are relatively empty right now. Garcia Lara says that they're about 25% occupied. But operators still worry about what will happen if and when Trump's mass deportations do materialize. They could send thousands of deportees into Tijuana's migrant shelters, the very same shelters that are struggling to keep their doors open. Gustavo Solis, KPBS News.
It's no secret the city of San Diego is dealing with budget challenges. In our latest Why It Matters segment, Voice of San Diego's CEO Scott Lewis explains how that has bled into a lawsuit against the city.
Recently, San Diego Mayor Todd Gloria reorganized the city's management structure. I know that doesn't sound very important, but stick with me. When he did it, he eliminated the position of Chief Operating Officer, and that meant the Chief Operating Officer, Eric Dargan, lost his job. At the time, the mayor made it clear he had eliminated Dargan's position and not fired him for cause. Now, that is up for dispute. A little background. If an employee loses their job, it's generally in one of two ways. Their employer either fired them for cause or eliminated their position. The key difference is whether the employer is allowed to replace the person. If you fire someone for cause, you can replace them. If you eliminate a position to save money, though, you can't replace them. The position is gone. Dargan just sued the city. Dargan is black and claims that he was the victim of racial discrimination. He says he did not get any severance when he lost his job. The complaint makes sense. Remember, the mayor had said he eliminated Dargan's position. But then the mayor's chief of staff surprised everyone last week when she told us that the mayor fired Dargan for cause, and that's why he didn't get a severance. And now the city has yet another legal challenge to deal with. I'm Scott Lewis for Voice of San Diego, and that's why it matters.
The Oceanside Museum of Art is celebrating neurodivergent artists with a new exhibit. Reporter Katie Heisen says the art is as wide-ranged as the autism spectrum itself.
The rooms are filled with found object lamps, photographs, and fabrics, and the paintings of Austin John Jones. His self-portrait smiles, but inside the brain, a small version of himself is curled up and crying.
It just shows what depression can do to someone even though they seem happy.
His art isn't only about autism, it's also universal.
Being on the spectrum is just a part of who I am. It has influenced my art. I wouldn't say it's everything about my art.
In the next painting, a pink hand offers up a brain.
It's literally just handing one's thoughts on a plate to someone else. It's almost kind of a representation of how some people on the spectrum just speak their mind, almost unfiltered.
The exhibit was crafted with neurodivergent visitors in mind. Noise-canceling headphones are available at the entrance. Boxes are filled with touchable art materials, offering matching sensory experiences. There's a chill room with beanbags and curtains. Jones is one of more than a dozen artists on the spectrum whose work will be displayed through August 3rd.
We have a voice just as much as anyone else, and I hope this show shows that.
Katie Hyson, KPBS News.
That's it for the podcast today. As always, you can find more San Diego news online at kpbs.org. For your next listen, hear from children's author Mara Altman on the KPBS Midday Edition podcast this afternoon. Her new children's book uses plants to promote self-love and body positivity. I'm Tepi Cruz. Thanks for listening and have a great Thursday.
KPBS On Demand is supported by Paint Care, offering households and businesses in California more than 800 leftover paint drop-off sites for recycling. Quantities of 100-plus gallons of paint may qualify for a large volume pickup. Learn more at paintcare.org.